It's made by glowworms down the aisles of the organ-playing wood. The boys are dreaming wicked, or of the bucking ranches of the night and the jolly Rogered sea. And the anthracite statues of the horses sleep in the fields, and the cows in the byres, and the dogs in the wet-nosed yards, and the cats nap in the slant corners, or lope, sly, streaking and needling on the one cloud of the roofs. You can hear the dew falling and the hushed town breathing. Only your eyes are unclosed to see the black and folded town vast and slow asleep.
Do you crave open, uncensored discussion about the unexplained? Look no further than the Troubled Minds Radio Network, the ultimate destination for those who seek the truth and aren't afraid to speak their minds. At the Troubled Minds Radio Network, we don't just talk about UFOs, the paranormal and the ever-changing, shifting news cycle. We dissect them, debate them, and encourage you to join the conversation. Join us as we gather to discuss the mysteries of the world, share your own encounters, and engage in thought-provoking conversation that leaves no stone unturned. Because the Troubled Minds Radio Network, your voice matters and all your ideas are welcome. Tune in, speak out, and explore the unknown. Don't miss out on the most candid, uncensored discussions about the unexplained on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Digital Broadcasting.
If you're into philosophical constructs, cosmic musings, and the probability of magic in our mysterious world, welcome to Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
This is James Salcedo, host of Salcedo Paranormal, and you're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
Hi, I'm Liam Martin of the Exiled Minds Podcast. You're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, the place where we dive into the depths of the unknown. From the Troubled Minds Radio Network, you can join us and embark on a thrilling journey through worlds of science, the paranormal, and the enigmas that defy explanation. Tune in, share, let everybody know that you're listening to Troubled Minds, the place that captivates and takes you to the uncharted territories of knowledge. Hello. Welcome to the show, folks. Exiled Minds Podcast. Your host, Liam Martin. Exploration of the weird, the wonderful, and the meaningful. Today, episode number 55, I think it is today. We're going to have a look into some history, some ancient history of Japan and a black samurai. I only known black samurai in Japan, and it's quite a fascinating story, really. And I thought I'd do this one today because I've seen a couple of recent news articles that are messing about with history. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. So we're gonna have a look at them, and then we're gonna have a look at this episode. We're gonna look at Yasuke, who was the black samurai, African samurai in Japan, only one, and his retainer Nobunaga. There's some rich history here. It's important to Japanese history, and I thought, considering there's been a lot of, in the last few years, we've been witness to some kind of rather, in my opinion, some rather silly division rhetoric, which I'm going to highlight at the start of this show. We'll have a look at that, and then we'll look at some actual documented history that's ancient and is not coming from the mouths of random contemporary children's book writers and just social media influencers, so to speak. So yes, so join us in this episode. Once we get past the silly rhetoric bit at the beginning, in this episode in the Exiled Minds Podcast, we're going to delve into the captivating story of Yasuke, the African samurai. Is it enigmatic? It was the samurai for an enigmatic Japanese leader, Oda. Well, I don't say his full name. I would say it's daimyo Oda Nobunaga. So these two figures have intersected during tumultuous era in feudal Japan. So join us, or join the Exiled Minds Podcast, which can be found on. We're currently streaming live on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Twitch, or Twitter X, I suppose. And we can be found on Spotify as well as all your main podcasting platforms, and also on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP digital broadcasting, of which I think next year we're going to start doing the show live on there. And I also thought I might as well set up a Discord channel as well and do it live on there too, if I can figure out the routine. don't think it's that hard. So yeah, we'll be on Discord as well, I think, going into the new year. And so we'll be going live then on 6 platforms, all the podcasting places. And we'll be on Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP live next year, I reckon. I'm chatting to Mike about that. So yes, anyway, links in the description if you want to check that out and listen to the station. It's coming out of beta. We're going to start making it official so we can start counting numbers and whatnot. So exciting times, interesting times, as the old Chinese curse goes. May you live in interesting times. But what we're going to do now then, in this episode of the Exiled Minds Podcast, we'll delve into this captivating story of Yasuke, the African samurai. We'll unveil the extraordinary journey of Yasuke, a man of African origin, brought to Japan by Italian Jesuits, and we'll discover he caught the attention of Oda Nobunaga, one of Japan's most formidable warlords, and became a respected retainer in the land where foreigners were rare, let alone revered as a samurai. It's rare to even have foreigners. We'll explore the fascinating world of Nobunaga, and who was a visionary leader whose military genius and ambition reshaped the landscape in 16th century Japan. We'll learn more about the innovative strategies, such the cultural patronage, and I don't know who's messaging me there. It's not a good time to be messaging me at this time. Yeah, let's mute that. Don't phone me on while I'm live, please. Anyway, yes, we'll explore the fascinating world of Nobunaga, visionary leader. Who was a military genius, and his ambition reshaped the landscape of 16th century Japan. And we'll learn about, he had some innovative strategies, whatnot, in a quest to unify a fractured nation. And this is why I thought we'll do this one today, because I don't know anything about this dude, both of them, in fact. And I thought with this, because they were trying to unify, and they were taking in. We've got this cultural significance that goes in with it. So through historical accounts and vivid storytelling, we'll aim to uncover the intriguing encounters, the alliances and battles that marked the convergence of Yasuke's journey with Nobunaga's pursuit for power. Discover the legacy that left behind and the impact it left. These remarkable stories have left on Japanese history and culture. So this episode of the Exiled Minds Podcast, we'll have a look at this. The tale is woven into bravery, cultural exchange, and a quest for unification in an era of strife and upheaval. And I'm thinking, we're in an era of strife and upheaval at the minute as well. So, yes, let's start then. So, I've seen this guy pop up a few times quite recently. I think it's because there's been some reuptake in the interest in this guy. So, hi James, see James in the chat there. Hey buddy. There we go. Hey James. Thanks for tuning in, bro. Right, let's have a look then. So, if you're in the Rumble chat, but I don't know if you're in Rumble. I'm trying to get it up on the other screen because I've got this restream chat thing, but it doesn't take it from every platform. So after I've meant multiple screens open. But anyway, we'll get into this. So first off, right, you get silly stories. You get stupid. I've been noticing, in my opinion, some really silly things been going on recently. which we'll look at. So let's check this out. Let me just share this screen here for the video viewers. Okay, so this is the thing. I noticed this come up. Yeah, we'll do this one first. So Barack Obama, former president, is in Newsweek. We've got a headline here from Microsoft News feed, and it says, this is some silly stuff. It says Obama faces backlash for film's quote warning in inverted commas. Warning. I'll get myself up on screen there. Yeah. So in inverted commas, we've got in Newsweek, say on the news feed from Microsoft, what we've got is we've got Obama faces backlash for films warning in inverted commas about white people, which straight away that feels a bit, you know what I mean? You can't say white people because that paints all our entire race with something, and you can't do that. That's racism straight up, right? You don't do that. You can't like say, all white people are this or all black people are this. You can't. People are individual. We're known to be unique. If you believe in the Human Genome Project, everybody's a one-off. So anyway, and by the way, as Morgan Freeman pointed out, he wasn't even the first black president. We also think he is, and he's not. He's the first mixed, it's the first non-white president. But anyway, moving on. Obama faces backlash for films warning about white people. Former President Barack Obama is facing backlash this Monday over a film which he consults on, which warns about white people. After concluding his presidency in 2017, Obama has written a best-selling memoir and signed deals with Netflix to produce films and television series. The former president has also created Higher Ground, a production company co-led by his wife, former First Lady Michelle Obama, in which projects were set to touch on issues such as race, class, democracy, and civil rights. The company's first production, American Factory, debuted in 2019 and centered on abandoned General Motors plants. It was reopened in Ohio by Chinese billionaires. The film took home an Oscar for Best Documentary Feature. But more recently, Obama served as a consultant on Sam Esmail. So he is a consultant on Sam Esmail's latest film, Leave the World Behind, based on Ruman Alam's novel of the same name. The film, which was released on Netflix Friday, follows two families forced to work together amid nationwide blackouts. As the threat grows, both families must decide how best to survive in a potential crisis while grappling with their places in a collapsing world. So this is like a dystopian film, okay, where the power goes out and people got no energy. Okay, bearing in mind that that's the kind of rhetoric we're hearing from these self-elected, directors of the world, such as Davos and the World Economic Forum. They have Klaus Schwab has famously and many, many times said we're going to deindustrialize the world, which means no industry and deindustrialize the world. Right, makes everybody a third world nation. Okay, so this film, which is released on Netflix on Friday, follows two families forced to work together amid nationwide blackouts. Some are calling this predictive programming, by the way, like pre-warning you, oh, we're going to do this. And this is the kind of rhetoric that we're hearing from Davos and the Economic Forum. But anyway, in the article, Newsweek, it says, as the threat grows, both families must decide how best to survive a potential crisis, all while grappling with their places in a collapsing world. The former president and First Lady signed on to produce the film last year. And as part of the deal, Obama was able to share his perspective on the events that unfolded on screen. According to Vanity Fair, while writing the script, Esmail consulted Obama, hoping that his perspective would ground the story and make it more realistic. Esmail added that Obama thought the script was fairly close to how a crisis would actually pan out in the real world. He had a lot of notes. About the character and the empathy he would have for them. Okay. Ismail told the magazine that Obama's got a lot of notes about the characters and the empathy and how you should do it. I have to say, he's a big movie lover, and he wasn't just giving notes about things that were from his background. He was giving notes as a fan of the book, he so claims, as he wanted to see a really good film version. All right. However, since the film's release on Netflix, some have taken to X, formerly Twitter, to share their thoughts on a specific scene in the movie. Newsweek reached out to Obama via email for comment on Monday. The scene in question shows a black couple lying in a bed as the lines, "I'm asking you to remember that if the world falls apart, trust should not be doled out easily to anyone, especially white people." So this is the thing. This film's saying you got to be a bit mistrusting of people during a disaster situation, especially white people. Now, singling out any race for anything, especially when it's a disparaging thing, saying maybe don't trust people. You can't paint an entire race of people with the same brush, because that is brazen racism, right? And it causes a heck of a lot of problems, and we've already had all this division politics. So Obama's in trouble for this. X users, libs of TikTok, noted the scene, were claiming the scene was demonizing towards white people. Netflix film called Leave the World Behind, produced by Obama, includes a scene demonizing white people. White people are the only group you're not allowed, and it says here, white people are the only group you're not allowed and celebrated to be racist towards. And it will put into and it's been put into movies by the most influential people, say the libs of TikTok, who wrote on X, or Twitter. X user Matt Wallace called the clip of the scene racist, saying the racist clip of Barack and Michelle Obama's first fiction film on Netflix called Leave the World Behind is about to go viral. Citizen Free Press, the news aggregation website, has also said that this scene warns about white people if the world falls apart. Barack Obama gave major feedback on the script of the Netflix Leave the World Behind, and the film fantasizes a cyber apocalypse and warns about white people if the world falls apart. The outlet wrote. Okay, sports journalist Jamal Hill wrote on X, "I'm watching Leave the World Behind, and Obama has been executive producer of this quite exquisite, masterful trolling," he calls it. There's also some much larger discussable points in it, but the conspiracy theorists are going to pass out watching this. That's what it says. Okay. Cause it's, it's a bit sketchy. It's sketchy, right? So this come up, and this kind of triggered something. Well, not triggered. It alerted my mind to, there was this as well. If we just switch to this, and the BBC ran with this. Okay, this is from the Telegraph. Stonehenge was built by Black Britons, children's history book claims. Readers of a newly released book is told that the monument was built in Britain, was a black country, right? Britain was not, our roads, the BBC ran with this and did a whole series about it, and they were saying, black people built Britain and, the roads and stuff. And we know it's Anglo-Saxon. Britain is influenced. Britain was Celtic and pagans, right? Like all of Europe's been pagans until about 2,000 years ago. It was all paganism. Did a show on paganism. Okay, Romans came here and built the roads. This is a white country. Okay. Now, when it was covered in ice and only Africans are around, maybe some people have come over and settled on here. Maybe that I can go with that, but black people didn't build Britain. The Romans built the roads. We know this, and why the BBC ran with this. So, and this is a children's book, so we're rewriting history for children. That's just, it seems kind of nonsense. Do you know what I'm saying? And it's important. You can't rewrite the next generation. And check this for another silly story. Look at this, Daily Mail. I can't believe this is a thing, but I looked it up. It's from a few weeks ago, but okay. So from the Daily Mail. They've got a date for this. They've got today's date on there. We've got a date for the article. Yeah, this is from November the 10th. So November the 10th, the Daily Mail. It says, headline, finally, a lesson in common sense. School tells parents we will not be providing litter trays for pupils who identify as a cat and warns this kind of behaviour is not acceptable. A school in South Wales was forced to say it would not give litter trays to pupils. The West Monmouth School in Pontypool has an alumni. One of the people in the alumni, whatever you call it, is Sir Anthony Hopkins. The school sent a letter to the Home of Parents to warn it is refusing to provide litter trays for any pupils who might identify as a cat. The 1,000 pupil high school, boasting a string of famous alumni, including Hollywood actor and superstar and knighthood guy Anthony Hopkins, and international rugby players, wrote to parents regarding the use of litter trays alongside toilets. The West Monmouth School in Pontypool, South Wales, was forced to contact mums and dads to deny claims that the kitty litter trays have been set to be provided for, quote, furries, pupils identifying as pets. Baffled parents received a letter to say there would be no provisions for pupils who might identify as an animal of any kind. Council chiefs said that the special treatment of any pupil who identifies as an animal of any kind was, quote, not acceptable. So I bring this up because we're seeing some stupid stories and we're seeing some stupid rhetoric, right? And we're seeing an alarming amount of division politics, which is why I'm going to cover this story about a black samurai. There's a real dude, like we covered the Bodhidharma in one of the earlier episodes, which apparently is a guy that walked all the way from West Africa, all the way to India, found his way to China and founded Buddhism, Zen Buddhism, So, you know what I mean? There's real ancient characters from Africa that have been really influential in big way. But this modern day stuff is a joke. It's a joke. It's ridiculous. So just want to let you know why we're kind of doing this bit at the first, because you got to check your history. You got to do your own homework, and we've got to talk together. You know what I'm saying? You can't trust this stuff, man. It's people crazy. Oh, let's have a look in the chat. So we've got James in the chat there. OG Skywatch, hello. Prepper movements. Doomsday device. Yeah, Doomsday. Yeah, everywhere. Doomsday, fair porn, all over the place, man. Who's this? Hello, sorry to bother you. I want your promotion on my channel. What? No, send me an email. I don't want your spam on here, thanks. Send me an email. Don't say sorry to bother you and then go and do it anyway. You've got the email address is there. Yeah, I'll post it. Yeah, it's in the link. It's in the about section. Do you know what I mean? You've got. Don't come on live just spamming yourself, dude. There's a time and a place for that. Don't be advertising. Anyway, yeah, OG. Let's move on to the comments that actually. Let's get this one up. So OG Skywatch, oh yeah, just watch this movie. It was pretty good, even though it had racial overtones as expected. Yeah. Well, there's the thing. Racial overtones, yeah. It's caused a backlash. And yeah, I don't know. Should we expect racism? And just seems to, I don't know. Seems a bit one directional, to be honest. What else we've got? OG Skywatch, put that up as well. OG Skywatch, when people are different in any way, a trust factor always goes down quick. Well, there's a point. Yeah, Italians built a heck of a lot of stuff here. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah, nice one, Enrico. Yeah, it's true. This is reality. OG Skywatch puts pick up your own law world, aka post-truth era. If you believe it, then it's real for you. Well, here's the thing. Oh, don't worry about it, James. Moderators. No, we'll see. It's the first time that's ever happened. So, email me, Exiled Minds at gmx.co.uk. Okay, but I can tell you now, I don't need any help, to be honest, because I'm not even trying at the minute. Right? So I got a radio station and go live on. I got a marketing guy that's been doing marketing all of his life that runs that radio station, and he'll do all this stuff for me for free. Do you know what I mean? So no, don't spam the chat with adverts. Do it professionally and email me, because otherwise it's not very professional, is it? And I just wasted a bunch of my darn time, and now we're going to do a break in a minute. But anyway, yes, let's see what else other comments we've got. Another one from OG. Here we go. OG Skywatch. Actual history doesn't matter. People need superheroes to believe in it. Well, there's a great point. Superheroes. We're getting these superheroes in the Marvel things, and I'll say this about magic and Disney. First thing we do with kids, we teach them about Disney, we give them Disney, we sell magic and fantasy, and then we tell them it's not real. But we leave Santa Claus open and say, oh, that dude's magic, and we let them figure it out for themselves, and then it kills your belief in magic. Do you know what I'm saying? And my personal opinion, which I'm entitled to, you cannot pick your own pronouns, because then you're messing about reality. You can't. There's some things you just can't say, it's my truth. I can't say it's my truth that red is green and green is red, because guess what? I'm going to get killed at the next crossing when there's busy traffic, aren't I? You know. So let's get some basis in reality. Right, so yeah, anyway, there's my little rant. It's not really a rant, just doing the news. But here's my little news section. I'll do a little bit of a break now, and then we'll actually look at some proper history of an actual African guy that needs revering, especially because he's doing his thing in Japan. You know, and there's some real history. Anyway, yes, let's do a quick break. What do we got? Let's just whack one of these on random, see what happens. Yeah, we're coming up to break time anyway. So that's my little news feature out the way. It kind of ties in, because I want to do some real history. You know what I'm saying? Anywho, let's have a quick break, and I'll have a minute to be on. Who's this? How dare you say? That's a classic. Look at this. Sixth sentient. I know I can say that unless I'm drunk. Sixth sentient. Got my teeth in. Sixth sentient. There we go. How dare you? My pronouns are tax exempt. Tax exempt self. Yeah, I'd love to be identifying as not having to pay tax, but then I'd be a massive corporation, wouldn't I? Looking at you, Apple. Anyway, yeah, because Apple, I don't know if they've paid the tax now, but I know 5 years ago, Apple owned more tax than Britain's national debt. That's why it sticks to mine. What happens if you don't pay your tax? See how quickly that gets. Anyway, it's another political thing. Let's have a break. And cool off. I don't know what's going to be on it. It's random, but let's just do it anyway. Exiled Minds Podcast. We'll get on and talk about this African and this Japanese warlord after these short messages. Once I press play. Are you ready to dive headfirst into the enigmatic, mysterious world of the occult? Troubled minds. Join the arcane observer on an explorational journey to unravel the ancient secrets, challenges, and boundaries of conventional knowledge and thinking. A fearless exploration into the occult with the arcane observer minds radio, unraveling the mysteries of a supernatural journey. Unlike your typical podcast, fearlessly embarking on a quest to demystify the occult, examining the paranormal, the esoteric traditions, and the unexplained, with open minds and a thirst for understanding. Explore ancient wisdoms, supernatural encounters, rituals, magic, conspiracy theories, and occult popular culture. Whether you're a seasoned practitioner or a curious observer, or someone just starting to peer into the shadows, the Arcane Observer invites you to join the electrifying expedition to the heart of the EMP digital podcast.
Are you looking for a way to connect with your spirituality? Look no further than Spirit Magica Crystal Shop. They have a wide variety of crystals, from amethyst to obsidian and more, including crystal packs, unique deals, and amazing customer service. The products are made with the highest quality materials and are backed by their satisfaction guarantee. Spirit Magica Crystal Shop are committed to helping you find the tools and resources you need to live a magical life. So what are you waiting for? Visit Spirit Magica today. Use coupon code Troubled Minds, all one word, at checkout for 25% off your first purchase.
Welcome back to the show, folks. Exiled Minds Podcast, episode number 55. Boom. See how I timed that with the music. But yeah, we're going to have a look at today. Made the point of, there's a lot of silly stories flying around, rhetoric stuff, people trying to sow seeds of division, especially between races, because guess what, right? Religion and races, yeah, divide and conquer all day long. Right, let me say this. In my opinion, I'm entitled to it. Yeah, the upper echelons of politics, right, are nutcases. That's how I feel, based on how they behave and based on the fact that, you know, Prince Andrew, Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Jimmy Savile, if you've never heard of him. I do a show on that, but that is such a dark, there's no end to the darkness on that. You know what I'm saying? But maybe we've got to do it. Maybe we should get Jen on for that one. You know what I'm saying? She can handle it. Yeah, I might do that actually. But yeah, so this is what I'm saying, right? If you're not a psycho, if you listen to this show, you're probably not a psychopath. You're probably not a pathological liar. And you probably haven't been forced to do initiation rites. So you've got each other over the same barrel, because that's how they do it. They blackmail each other. Yeah, intelligence services in Britain knew all about Epstein Island. They know all about it. But they saved it and hired the guy so we could use him to blackmail other politicians so they can get leverage. Same thing. Britain has a thing where with fishing rights, always at war with the French, politically, over fishing rights. Oh, they're overfishing this because we screwed up with the way that we did fishing rights in the English Channel, because Ted Heath at the time was thought to be one of these people doing nasty stuff, and they had evidence on him, so he, sold us down the river, which is another historical thing, and that's a fake war anyway. Britain and France, that was funded by a German family, both sides. So, it's all. So what I'm saying is, let's stick together and let's look at some history, how you can break through the ranks, and cultural symbiosis. That's how you got to work with it. Anywho. Quickly check the chat, see if anyone's else jumped in. Yes, united we fly, divided we fall. Yeah, that's exactly. They say united we stand, but yeah, I prefer that better, Erika. United we fly. Well, what if we was united with fly? If we all got together, right? I reckon if we all got together, because there was that mass Maharishi meditation, wasn't there? has been done. Maharishi is a Indian like guru type guy, and the Beatles went to see him. Maharishi effect. If a bunch of people, if a few thousand people meditate on reducing violent crimes globally, it works. And we did the magic show with Michael, and this stuff works. I think when you get people together, it's like an amplifier, and the intention kind of goes off like. But anyway, enough of that. Let's look at these two characters then, Nobunaga and Yasuke. Let's have a look. So Yasuke's story is quite fascinating. He was an African man who served as a samurai in Japan during the 16th century, and is known for his unique position as a foreigner within the samurai class, because they're just not doing that. They're not even having foreigners mostly in Japan in that era and before. It came a couple of centuries later, which we'll sort of get into. But yeah, so it's thought that Yasuke was originally from Mozambique and was brought to Japan by Jesuit missionaries who caught the attention of Oda Nobunaga, a powerful Japanese feudal lord, who took him into his service and eventually bestowed him with the rank of samurai. So yes, it was brought to Japan by Italian Jesuits. Italians again, get in there. Very influential. One of the key figures associated with this event was Alessandro Valegnano. I don't think I can say that right. Let's try this again. Valegnano, yeah, I think that's right. Alessandro Valegnano was a Jesuit missionary and a visitor. He was a high-ranking official of the Jesuit missions in the East, including Japan. Valegnano played a significant role in Jesuit missions activities in Asia, particularly in Japan. And it was during this time that Yasuke came into the service of Oda Nobunaga. These missionaries included Valanagra, who was a part of the efforts of European powers to establish trade routes and spread Christianity in Asia in the 16th century. Their interactions and local rulers with nobility sometimes led to interesting encounters, such as Yasuke's recruitment by Nobunaga. So just because of this, how I like to do it, let's see who the Jesuits are then, in case you never heard of them. So Jesuits, zoom in a bit for the video people. I just changed the flipping story. Okay, let's try zooming in again. There we go. From www.britannica.com, the Jesuits, it's a religious order. Okay, so the Jesuits, a member of the Society of Jesus, SJ, is a Roman Catholic order of religious men founded by St. Ignatius of Loyola. St. Ignatius of Loyola. Noted for his educational, missionary, and charitable works, the order has been regarded by many as a principal agent of Counter-Reformation, which was later a leading force in modernizing the church. The order grew out of the activity of Ignatius, a Spanish soldier who experienced a religious conversion during a period of convalescence from a wound he received in battle. So he's received a wound and ended up converting and becoming very religious. Maybe he has a spiritual experience while he was injured. After a period of intense prayer, he composed the Spiritual Exercises, a guidebook to convert the heart and mind to a closer following of Jesus Christ. On August 15th, 1534, in Paris, 6 young men who had met him at the University of Paris and made a retreat according to the spiritual exercises joined him in vows of poverty, chastity, and pilgrimage to Jerusalem. If this last promise did not prove possible, as it did not, they vowed to accept any apostolic work requested by the Pope. So if they couldn't get to Jerusalem, they'll just do whatever the Pope says. And in 1539, Ignatius drafted the first outline of the order's organization, which Pope Paul III approved on September 27th, 1540. So basically, the Jesuits, Christian missionaries that have been around, an order that's been around since 1540. Okay, so they're the people. So they're the people that, that's brought over these slaves, and then one of them's been spotted. Alex, if you want to, Axel Steele. Honestly, we'll do a Jimmy Savile show if you want, but it don't get a lot darker. We don't get a lot darker, bro. It's not good. It's not good. But anyway, that'll get banned. Bohemian Grove one did get banned. YouTube did temporarily ban my Star Child School one for about 3 hours before I even spotted it, and then just reinstated it apparently without an appeal. So I don't know what happened there. But anyway, yeah. So we've got the Jesuit order, and yes, back to the script. So yeah, it was brought over by these Italian Jesuit missionaries. Then one of the key figures associated with what he mentioned. Yeah. So Yasuke's life in Japan is shrouded in some mystery. There's not that much to go with, to be honest, but we'll get a picture of him. Let's get an image. Let's get I didn't get it ready. Let's stick this guy in the background. Oh my god, Google is so useless. It just won't even let me type anymore. Let's try this again. Let's get a picture of the guy in the background. Here we are. This will do. This dude here. This dude, my shoulder there. This is the guy. Afro Samurai. I'm telling you. Anywho, yes, back on with the show. So who was his retainer then? So his retainer, I thought it'd be good to have a look at this guy. So to see what's the sort of historical context. So who was Nobunaga? So Nobunaga was a powerful and influential daimyo, a feudal warlord in Japan during the late 16th century. He was a central figure to the Sengoku period, which is a time of intense military conflict and political upheaval in Japan. So some key points about Nobunaga is his rise to power. He was born in 1534 and became the head of the Oda clan in 1551 after the death of his father. He initiated a campaign to unify Japan under his rule, starting from his base in Owari province. So he's trying to do unification, which is why I'm making this point. Unify. Okay, so the military strategies of Nobunaga were known for his innovative military tactics and strategies. He employed firearms and brand new battlefield formations, which gave him a significant advantage over his adversaries. He also used alliances and manipulation of rival factions to expand his influence, so he's a master strategist. Control and ambitions. Throughout his rule, Nobunaga successfully conquered and consolidated power over a significant portion of central Japan. His ambition was to unify the entire country, which was made considerable progress towards before his death. The patronage and culture and trade. This is the important thing. So Nobunaga was also interested in promoting trade and cultural exchange. I think this is why this guy needs a bit of a shout out. So yeah, let's get a picture of Nobunaga. I spelled it wrong. But there we go. So this guy then, yeah. So it's worth a shout out because he was trying to unify Japan and he did a really good job of it, to be honest. He almost, anyway, yeah. So he was interested as well, also in cultural exchange, which, and obviously Japan's got its own rich history and it's Shinto religions and stuff and Buddhism and that. So, they've got a rich history, but under Nobunaga, the patronage and cultural trade was really important. Okay, so Nobunaga was interested in promoting trade and cultural exchanges. He supported the arts, particularly the tea ceremony and Noh theatre, and encouraged foreign trade and relationships, such as with the European missionaries and traders, which is how, this sort of came about. His downfall and legacy. Despite his military successes, Nobunaga faced internal revolts and betrayals. In 1582, while besieging a temple in Kyoto, he was betrayed by one of his generals by the name of Akechi Mitsuhide. So Akichi Mitsuhide betrayed him, one of his generals, and he forced him to commit seppuku, which is the ritual sacrifice. His death marked a significant turning point in Japanese history. I mean, after that, I think they went isolationist for a while, about 200 years. So Nobunaga's influence in Japanese history is profound. His efforts to unify the country laid the groundwork for the subsequent unification achieved by his successor, Toyomi Hideyoshi. So Toyomi Hideyoshi took over and completed his works along with Tokugawa Ieyasu. So Tokugawa Ieyasu was sort of his right-hand man. And he was remembered as daring and innovative leader who impacted Japanese politics, warfare, and cultural what's that word? Yeah, he had substantial influences on politics, warfare, and culture. So it kind of carried on a little bit. So the inclusiveness and open to cultural exchange is the bit I want to emphasize here. Nobunaga was known for being relatively open to cultural influences. Yes, inclusiveness from outside of Japan, particularly from Europe and China. During his rule, he actively engaged with foreign traders and missionaries, including the Portuguese and the Jesuit missionaries. Nobunaga recognized the potential benefits of establishing relationships with these foreigners. He welcomed trade and European merchants, which brought new goods, technology, including the firearms, which really helped him, and cultural elements were brought into Japan. The exchange was introduced novel ideas and items that fascinated Nobunaga and was sometimes incorporated into his court's daily life. Additionally, he showed interest in Christianity, primarily through interactions with these Jesuits. While his reasons for supporting Christianity are not entirely clear, some speculate it was partly for political purposes or as a counterbalance to the Buddhist influence. Nobunaga did support and facilitate the spread of Christianity to some extent. So he wasn't even against bringing the religions in either. See how inclusive this is. Okay, Nobunaga's open-mindedness towards foreign cultures and his willingness to incorporate foreign elements in Japanese society marked a unique aspect of his rule during the period of significant social and political change in Japan. So I was wondering, hey, you know, the cultural exchange emphasis seems quite unique to Nobunaga, and the history seems to imply it was not that common in Japan, which obviously has its own rich culture. And indeed, during this period, Nobunaga lived in the 16th century Japan that was undergoing significant internal turmoil and change. Japan had a long history of relative isolation, especially during the preceding centuries of the Warring States period, the Sengoku period that we're talking about here, where you basically got various factions that are all vying for control. Nobunaga's openness to foreign influences included European cultures brought by the missionaries, traders, as I mentioned. Japan was somewhat isolated from the rest of the world for centuries, and while it had been occasional contact with Chinese and Korean, extensive culture exchange with Europe was relatively new. Okay, because Japan kind of needs trade. It needs the rest of the world. It's kind of struggles a bit because there's just so many mountains on there. You know, they ain't got that much land and that much resources. So let's have a look at this. Let's have a look then. I found a Time magazine article. So we'll just read this next. It'll get me off the screen so you can see it properly. Okay, so Time magazine, they did a special piece on this samurai then. So there's not that much that we know for sure, but Time magazine's got a decent piece on this. So from time.com, this is by Cat Moon. This is from April 30th, 2021. So let's have a look about this Yasuke guy then arriving in Japan. So in 1579, an African man known by the name Yasuke arrived in Japan. Much about him remains a mystery. It's unconfirmed which country in Africa he hailed from, and there are no referable records of his life after 1582. So this is a bit of a mystery because we're only hearing about this guy for 3 years. A bit like Hendrix, isn't it? Maybe it's the reincarnation of Hendrix, man. I've got some comments in the chat there. Yeah, Japanese culture is cool. Yeah. Yeah, Sixth Sentient. Yeah, I was worried about Fukushima. I thought it was done for, and they looked at buying half of Idaho at the time. So I think they were worried as well, to be honest. But Dynasty Warriors, oh my God, I used to play that. I just go, Dynasty Warriors, man, how many people can you kill at once in Dynasty Warriors? It's pretty epic, actually. There's a lot. Yeah, let me get rid of this like, share, subscribe thing. Get the Troubled Minds thing off for a minute. There we go. Yes. What else we got in the chat? The Japanese still don't let Muslims live there. Well, maybe that's true. But and what else we got here? Comment from Sixth Sentient. But that's because they know they're fundamentalists and they will never change. Well, maybe not all of them, but yeah, you gotta be careful, right? You're gonna want to vet people who are coming in. I get that, but I don't know. Anyway, yeah, moving on. So, 1579, an African man known as by the name Yasuke arrived in Japan. Much about him remains a mystery. It's unconfirmed which country of Africa he hailed from. A lot of people seem to think it's Mozambique, though, from the research I did anyway. And there is no verifiable records of his life after 1582. So, like I say, we're only talking 3 years worth of mentions of this guy. But he's got a statue, and he's definitely legit and in there. So, okay, but Yasuke was a real-life black samurai and served under Oda Nobunaga, one of the most influential warlords mentioned in Japanese history and the unifier of the country, or he set the groundwork for it to be unified. So this character, Yasuke, this black samurai, has also been the inspiration of a Netflix new anime series under the same name, Yasuke, and that's a project from the creator and director LeSean Thomas and the Japanese animation studio Mappa, M-A-P-P-A. The executive producer was Lakeith Stanfield, that's the voice for in the TV show. So yeah, Lakeith Stanfield was one of the producers, and he does the voice for Yasuke as well. And the Flying Lotus, who produced the soundtrack. Flying Lotus did the soundtrack for the TV show there. This is not the first time that the Yasuke has appeared in popular culture. Author Kuruso Yoshio published a children's book called Kurosuke about a samurai in 1968. Yasuke also showed up as a playable character in the 2017 video game Nioh, as in Nioh, Nioh. And also in 2019, from Chadwick Boseman's death, it was announced that the actor would play. Oh, the actor was going to play a film. Okay, so Chadwick Boseman, the actor, would play Yasuke in a film based on the warrior story. So Chadwick Boseman is a guy who played Black Panther. So they was going to earmark him for a movie to be the Black Samurai as well, which is interesting. I didn't know that one. And that's another thing, actually, because personally, again, my opinion, which I'm entitled to, I think it's suspect that the Black Panther actor died after the. I think that's a bit suspect. And I know we're hearing cancer's rife, and but something feels a bit sus to me about that, to be honest, because he would have been the living embodiment of a black god. Do you know what I'm saying? So I always find that a bit sus, because he was clearly a fit guy, and obviously had money. So you think you get, I don't know, but it gets people sometimes, these cancers, doesn't it? So maybe that's legit, but I find that a bit sus, the death of Chadwick Boseman. But anyway, moving on. So he was going to play this Black Samurai, an African samurai guy. The Netflix anime series takes a new approach to the storytelling of Yasuke. One that combines the historical elements with fantastical components. Animation is always a medium where you can do things that real people can't do. Of course, you can draw anything. Thomas told Time magazine, In the show, there are plenty of giant robots, magical beasts, and otherworldly fight sequences involving supernatural powers, but there are also scenes inspired by events recorded about the African samurai's life. One of the first scenes in the anime shows the first meeting between Nobunaga and Yasuke after a feudal lord applauds him for winning a fight on the street. He asks Yasuke to be cleaned, and thinking of his skin was covered in dirt. He literally thought that. So he asked him to be cleaned, and the quote is here, Did you ink your skin black? Nobunaga inquires, when Yasuke's appearance doesn't change after being washed. I was born with black skin, Yasuke responds. This interaction is not too unlikely the actual initial encounter. It's not, it says, this scene that it shows you is not too unlike the original encounter of the two, Yasuke and Nobunaga, who didn't believe Yasuke's true skin color was black, said Thomas Lockley, the co-author of African Samurai, The True Story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan. Along with, he wrote that along with Jeffrey Grayrard. So Lockley describes this event as being from March of 1581. Nobunaga ordered him to get scrubbed. Of course, Yasuke's skin remains intact, he said. Nobunaga then threw a party to welcome the man into his court, according to Lockley. Yasuke entered the feudal lord's service sometime within the next few days. The anime series, that's pretty interesting then. So he literally saw the guy win a fight, thought is that just really dirty, wash him up. His skin stays the same. He's confused and probably never seen an African. Which is fair enough. You've never seen an African, might make that mistake. But then a few days later, he's inviting him into his court. So clearly this guy was a welcoming, open person. You know what I'm saying? In the anime series, oh no, we're at break time again. All right, we're going to get into who Yasuke was in this in the rest of this article after the break. It keeps creeping up on us. What have we got? I'll just read this last little bit. In the anime series, references range from... In the anime series, it references a range of other moments documented in the life of the Black Samurai who lived more than 400 years ago. Interest in Yasuke is bound to grow since Lockley says he is widely regarded as the first ever foreigner to be given warrior status in Japan. And then it goes on to explain the true story of Yasuke, which we haven't got time for because we've got to do a break, but we'll quickly grab one of these bits of music here. I don't know, try this one. Number 5, because that's a freedom number. It's a freedom number in numerology, so we're sticking number 5. So, Exiled Minds Podcast, Liam Martin, episode 55. Just bear with us a moment when we'll talk about Yasuke's story, the Black Samurai, after these short messages. Back in a sec.
Welcome to Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where we sip on some maybe juice and explore the unknown.
In the realm of podcasts dedicated to the mysterious and the unexplained, Salcedo Paranormal stands out as a beacon of warmth and curiosity. This podcast delves into the world of the paranormal with a focus on ghostly encounters and a commitment to exploring the light aspects of the enigmatic subject matter. With James Salcedo at the helm, his unique perspective adds a layer of authenticity and intrigue to the show, making it an inviting space for both skeptics and believers. Listeners will find themselves immersed in stories, friendly ghostly apparitions, mischievous spirits, and heartwarming encounters that challenge stereotypes associated with the supernatural. In addition to sharing ghostly anecdotes, Salcedo Paranormal offers literary dimension, hosting insightful reviews of books and the works of spooky writers. Tune in live, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's called Follow the Podcast stream on Podbean, where you'll find there's a huge archive of past shows from James, who can also be heard on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. And there's more. Along with this, there are bonus shows on the Patreon for subscribers, where you can also make a one-time donation to our friend James from Salcedo Paranormal. You and I know there's no better show. The best thing to do is go home, listen to Salcedo Paranormal. Snore when it makes sense, bro. Take notice. He's the only expert we know.
This is James Salcedo, host of Salcedo Paranormal, and you're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
House Oversight Committee did vow to open hearings about UFOs.
Oh wow, that ended a bit abruptly there. Didn't expect that, but it's a good job. It's a good job I'm quick on the mute button. So welcome back to the show, Exiled Minds Podcast, episode number 55, and we're looking at Nobunaga and Yasuke, African samurai. We've had a quick look at some of the beginning of the show. We looked at some of the division politics and how here's an historical account where you might have expected some divisions, but no, they're trying to unify. And I think that's a good thing. I think we should be looking at that again. So that's why I'm doing this show today, because we need to unify now more than ever, in my view. So we're going to look at some real history. We're going to look at this Yasuke and Nobunaga, how an unlikely encounter with a Japanese warlord ends up hiring a guy who sees win a street fight as an African guy, and he thought his skin was just dirty and he won. And he's like, wow, I don't believe it. He didn't believe his skin was black or brown, really. And and then after realizing he really was, a dark brown skin guy, he's like, well, man, you won the fight. You're a cool dude. A few days later, he invites him into his court. And then this guy ends up climbing the ranks and becoming a Japanese warrior. And not many foreigners get to do that. Not at all. Not at all. And these are the guys, the first one. And there's a caveat towards the end of the show, because I think he might link into someone else. It's not the first time we've seen this. It's not the first time. We've seen it before. But anyway, yes. Let's go back to this article. I was reading an article from Time magazine, which, as me and Jay know, Time magazine sometimes gives different stories to different regions. But this is generic stories, so I think we're okay with this one. Because me and Jay found out that we got two opposing narratives on that contested election. Time magazine tells one person, no, it's not election fraud. And then Time magazine tells another region, yeah, it happened, but it bolsters democracy because we've got rid of a dictator. But that's what it said. We confirmed it. But at Time magazine, in this case, we're just talking about a historical character. No reason not to go with this one. because this is the same history I came up with anyway. So just nice to see it in an article. So let's get me off the screen. So in case any video folks want to look at this stuff. Right, so let's do it. So you're just saying that this it's come up in pop culture. There's been some anime series, Netflix series. The anime references a range of moments documented in the life of a black samurai who lived 400 years ago, 16th century. And the interest in Yasuke as bound to have grown, as Lockley says, is widely regarded as the first ever foreigner to be given warrior status in Japan, feeling the call of the warrior, as some of us do. In fact, feeling the call of the warrior. I've been feeling the call of the warrior as well. I'm going to start doing martial arts soon. I'm going to do jiu-jitsu next year. I'm making headway in getting that sorted out, and I'm going to be joining Dragon Boat Racing Club, which is very Eastern as well. So we're all feeling the call. And if ever the time is to be a good time to be a warrior, it is probably now, actually. But anyway, need to get fit after all that all that lockdown stuff. Get your muscles back going. Anywho, who was this guy then? Who was this guy? Can I get rid of this stupid video? There we go. Right, Yasuke. When Yasuke arrived in Japan in 1579, bear in mind we've only got 3 years of history for this guy. Say it was the Italian Jesuit named Alessandro Valegnano. There we go. Alessandro Valegnano, the Jesuit, brought him in 1579 over to Japan. They came by way of India. Okay, so that's not, it's next door to Africa pretty much. So he came in by way of India, according to Lockley, who wrote this book. And what was his book called? African Samurai, The True Story of Yasuke, a legendary black warrior in feudal Japan. So this is what Lockley's talking about. So Lockley says Yasuke was in the service of Valegnano and was likely his bodyguard. As a priest, he wasn't allowed to have any soldiers or guards. Lockley said of the Jesuit missionaries, they weren't allowed bodyguards or soldiers because they're priestly people. Okay, so euphemistically, they had valets or manservants, if you like, and these manservants who were also they taught them how to use weapons so they could protect them properly. It's like bending the rules, isn't it? Hang on, let me get rid of this. Get rid of this of the screen there. There we go. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, so euphemistically, they had valets or manservants, or a ward, as you might call them, who were also versed in weaponry. So they teach them weaponry so they can protect them. And in 1581, Valegnano headed to what was then the capital city, Kyoto, to meet Nobunaga and request permission to leave Japan. So, because they're doing the trade routes over there, they're going to Japan, and I suppose you have to ask if you can come in and out, ask the king, sort of thing, or one of these feudal lords. And it was on this trip that Yasuke crossed paths with this feudal lord Nobunaga. Some have said that the Yasuke was a slave, and Lockley acknowledges the theory but disagrees. Personally, I don't think he was a slave in any sense of the word. I think he was a free actor, as in Lockley says, as in a free actor, as in he had free agency over himself. The author speculates that given the circumstances of how African men arrived at his employment with Valegnano, it's possible that Yasuke was enslaved as a child and taken from Africa to India. There, Lockley said, the man could have been a military slave or an indentured soldier, but he probably got his freedom before meeting Valegnano, which I suppose you can win your freedom. You can win your freedom if you do good stuff, and I don't argue with that. And that's probably true. So Yasuke was standing more than 6 feet tall and is described as having the strength of 10 men. So this is the thing; he was a strong dude, which obviously then you'd want to use him as a warrior. Yasuke left also a strong impression on Nobunaga. It seems like, according to Lockley, he was a confident, Nobunaga was recorded as talking often with him. Lockley said in a follow-up email, he was also a weapons bearer and probably served in some kind of bodyguard capacity, which we already mentioned it. Lockley explained that in Yasuke's time, the idea of a samurai was a very fluid concept. You don't have to possess any particular killing skills to be a samurai, the author said, which I didn't know that. That's quite interesting, isn't it? Don't have to. You always think of samurai being like super skilled killers, don't you? But you don't have to be in possession. You don't have to possess any particular killing skills to be a samurai, the author said. Anybody who took up weapons on behalf of a lord could technically call themselves a samurai, or could be called a samurai by others. In the years following Yasuke's service to the feudal lord, it is possible that hundreds of other foreigners from places including Africa, China, and Korea were employed in similar ways as this African warrior. He is supposedly the first recorded of this type, the first recorded foreigner to become a warrior, Lockley explains. The difference is that other foreigners that have followed were not in service as Nobunaga. There are several records of Black Africans serving for minor lords, and we do not know so much about them because the lords they were serving were minor. So there's not that much history to talk about for the minor ones. Okay. Here for the video viewers, we've got an ancient Japanese painting depicting samurais fighting and people around. So yes, Suma Yurakazu Byabu. Okay, let's try that again. Suma Yurakazu Byabu, drawn in 1605, was an enormous artist, author Thomas Lockley said, and the individual in the green and the third panel from the left is believed to be Nobunaga himself. So you got this guy here depicted, this historical figure, to do special, regal paintings of events and such, and so the individual in the green and the third from the left. So 1, 2, 3. So he's sat down watching people fight. Okay. Author Thomas Lockley said that the individual in green, the third panel from the left, is believed to be Nobunaga. He said it's highly likely that the black man was depicted in his artwork as Yasuke. All right. But you'll notice that in the picture, everybody is sort of pale-skinned. Some people are very pale, look like the geishas who wear white makeup. Everybody else seems of regular, like sort of Japanese skin color. And then there's two guys wrestling, and one of them is distinctly darker than the rest. So I think that's what we're looking at here. That's probably Yasuke. So what happened to Yasuke when Nobunaga died? En route to the battle in 1582, Nobunaga was ambushed by his general. So he said he was betrayed. And this was the general Akichi Mitsuhide. This would come to be known as the Honnoji incident, in which Nobunaga died in the Honnoji temple on June the 21st, which would be in 1582. Lockley said that Akichi and his soldiers were heading to the same battlefield, but turned around and attacked Nobunaga in an act of betrayal. Nobunaga had 30 men. Akichi had 13,000. So it was a foregone conclusion. Lockley said that Yasuke was one of the 30 men with the feudal lord. So they would have had to fight off 13,000 people. Right, potentially. Nobunaga was at the Honji temple at the time of the ambush. He performed seppuku, a form of ritual suicide that involves slicing open the abdomen. It's regarded as the way of retaining honor, even in defeat. It was his last victory, Lockley says. Instead of being killed, performing seppuku sends the message of being in control of one's death. The ritual sometimes involves a kaishakununin, or a designated second who beheads the individual. It's a symbolic action of cutting your belly to show that the purity of your intentions, Lockley explains. But obviously, nobody really wants to sit there while their guts are coming out. So the role of the Kai Shak Kunin, usually a friend, will then cut off their head. So because you've cut your guts out and they're hanging on the floor, you're not going to die straight away, and it's going to be super painful, and it's not going to look nice. So then you get someone to cut your head off to finish you off quickly. Lockley said it's traditionally held that Mori Ranmaru, an attendant of Nobunaga, was considered to be the feudal lord's lover, acted as the second and the Kai Shak Nunin to cut his head off. So that's pretty sad, man. The person, oh wow. So yeah, so you've got to get your lover to cut your head off, or the person that's closest to you, which is pretty harsh, really. Okay, Yasuke. In the temple with Nobunaga, when he performed the seppuku, he was there. There's no record, but traditions hold that Yasuke was the one who took Nobunaga's head to save it from the enemy, Lockley said. If Akechi, the enemy, had gotten the head, he'd been able to hold it up. He hold up the head, and it would be a powerful symbol of legitimacy. So if you kill the warlord and you hold his head up, that's the idea, then you can say, hey, beat this guy, I've got his head, I did it myself, which he didn't, and you can claim that you're such a formidable warrior that you can behead a person and bring that along with you for proof. Okay, so it sounds like Yasuke is the one who saved it. He saved the head from the enemy. So if Lockley says, if Akechi, the enemy, had gotten the head, he'd been able to hold the head up, and it would be a powerful symbol of legitimacy. Lockley explained that an act like that would have given Akechi credibility as a ruler. After the attack on Nobunaga, Akechi did not get so much support and was soon defeated in battle. Yasuke, therefore, by escaping with the head, could have been seen as changing Japanese history. Because had he not took that head, then this other scoundrel backstabbing minor warlord would have perhaps got a lot more support. You know what I'm saying? I'll go in the chat. Been listening at work a bit. I'll try and listen back. Very interesting talk. Oh, great. I'm glad you think that, Algo, because I knew nothing about this, and I thought we'll just do something different. And see how I go when I don't know anything about the topic. So cheers, mate. Nice one. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, so Yasuke, before escaping with the head, could have been seen as a change in Japan's history by taking it away. Shortly after Nobunaga's death, Yasuke joined Oda Nobutada. So very similar. So he's left Oda Nobunaga and joined Oda Nobutada. That's very similar, doesn't it? Very similar. Let's say it again. Shortly after Nobunaga's death, Yasuke joined Nobutada, the son of Nobunaga, who was nearby. Okay, that's why it's kind of similar. Okay, that makes sense. At that point, Yasuke fights again, a second battle of the morning, Lockley said. Nobutada has 200 men, not 30. But of course, Akechi still has 13,000. So that's, again, another foregone conclusion. On the same day, the 21st of June, 1582, Nobutada also performed seppuku. Lockley said that Yasuke was most likely left wounded on the battlefield, and the last record of Yasuke is of a man being escorted to Ishiki's troops to a Jesuit mission house. Wow, crazy stuff, man. That's nuts. So think about that. He perhaps was a slave at first, won his freedom. It looks like perhaps won his freedom in battle with the Jesuits, and he would have been armed and taught how to use weapons if he didn't already know. And then when the Jesuits asked for permission to leave Japan after they've done the trading and whatnot, Nobunaga sees the guy have a fight, wins it, is amazed by the fact that he's got brown skin, takes him on board straight away, becomes his retainer, which if you're under the service of a lord in Edo, Japan, everything's taken care of for you. You get nice clothes, you know, you've always get fed, you've got a home. You know what I'm saying? Which is the thing, like, if a samurai gets kicked out, you kind of like, you're homeless, you've got no status, you've got everything if you're got a retainer. But if you get kicked out, you become a ronin, like a samurai without a retainer, which is supposed to be a bit shameful, because it's like, well, why have you been kicked out? What have you done to get kicked out? That's sort of kind of how it seems to go in Japanese culture, from what I can tell. So yeah, so it's a really high prestigious role. So he's obviously gone to support his son, staying loyal, who's also been forced to kill himself because they had no hope with this betrayal. So that's a bit much, you know. And then, say the last record of Yasuke is being escorted by Kichi's troops back to the Jesuit missionary house. So who knows what happened to him? Who knows? Maybe went back into the service of the Jesuits. Maybe he didn't survive battle wounds. Don't know. Just don't know. But let's have another look at his picture. Let's get him in the background. To look at the guy, because let's take a moment to take this dude in. African samurai. Only got historical accounts of him living historical records for him for about 3 years, just like Hendrix. Seems like he was one of them those who shine bright, burn out the fastest sort of thing. But this guy's on it. Let's scroll down a bit. We've got some anime pictures of the guy as well. And like I say, it's come up in pop culture. It's supposed to be a true story. There's a book as well, there's another book that I found. The Thomas Lockley book that we mentioned is authored by Thomas Lockley and Jeffrey Grayard. Let's just show a picture for the video viewers. Yes, Yasuke, story of a true samurai, the true story of a legendary African samurai. Available on Amazon. Kindle edition, only $2.99. Paperback, $7.99. The hardcover, $41.85. English pounds and pence. Wow, that's a lot. But the hardcover, maybe it's they always cost more, don't they? Shipping as well. Dang. Yeah, so there's books about him. We've also got Yasuke in anime in the Netflix series as well. And apparently, I don't know what the score system is here. It says on myanimelist.net, it says it got a score of 5.76. And I know there was also Afro Samurai as well, which we'll get a quick look at there from www.imdb.com. You get a lot of they have loads of movie reviews and TV show reviews. And there's Afro Samurai as well in pop culture, which again, surely, because it's Edo, Japan, because it's the right era, Afro Samurai I like this show. It's a pretty cool show. So I don't know if anybody's seen this, but yes, Afro Samurai is another one. I recommend you watch that. This guy's always smoking a reefer as well. I don't know if that's just, added in there. This didn't seem to be in history, but then there was all smoking opium, I suppose, in that sort of part of the world at some point. But yes, Afro Samurai. Samuel L. Jackson does the voice for him as well. So it's cool. It's cool. I like Afro Samurai. And so it's a bit fantasy as well. Got some like reanimation stuff and demon type things. But Afro Samurai is well good. That's got 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. And also, if we've seen the statue, there's a statue of the guy as well, which I use for the sort of thumbnail, but we'll try and get a proper picture. Check this out for the video viewers. So this guy, it's got all the samurai garb. He's got the two samurai swords to one side. It's got the headgear. This looks like dragon scales. And all these like dreadlocks coming out from under the headgear. And I'm saying, clearly the African guy. And he's got his wajizaki and his katana there. Wajizaki is a short sword, katana is a longer one. You have two, because then one's for close quarter combat or in a tight space, and then the longer one, is the classic katana samurai sword. So we've got this guy there, and we've also got on Ancient Origins, they did a bit of a piece on the guy as well, of which we find some nice artwork where it shows us a Japanese painting where you've got these regal like people, and you've got this clearly African looking guy holding up an umbrella over the warlord there. So yeah, it's a thing. It's a definite thing. This guy's a legend. But check this. I want to talk now quickly about Sai Baba. It's just as a side note to talk about all these crossover cultural influences, like I say, because of all the division politics. That's why I want to emphasize this, because we've been working together for a long time, I'll just wait for this. I'll get my ugly mush on the screen while I wait for this thing to load, because it's still want to load now. Come on. What's going on? Everything seems to have frozen for a minute. But that's okay. Yeah, everything's froze on there. Can't even get myself on screen. But anyway, I'll just keep talking. Here we are. So yeah, I want to put this in as well, because we did a show about the Bodhidharma, which I want to sort of get into next, because like I say, I've mentioned it's not the first time we've seen this, and there's all this cross-cultural stuff. Man, I swear we must have had a global civilization a long time ago. Now check this guy out just before we go to break again. Look at this guy. He's a Vedic, Hindu Vedic. All right. Check this dude. So this is, I'm from wikipedia.org, links in the description. We've got Safya Sai Baba. Okay. He was born in 1926 and died in 2011. I just want to do a quick read up on this before we go to a break. Yeah. Well, basically, I want you to look at the picture. This guy, look, this is a Hindu Vedic with an afro, and his nose is broad. He's Indian, but he's got a full-on afro, kinky hair. Come on, broad nose, kinky hair, Indian. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, well, I don't know. That looks like an African dude to me. I don't know what anyone else thinks. I mean, his skin's a bit pale, as far as some Africans go. It's not as dark brown, but he's got an afro and he's got a broad nose. So I'm saying, look, Africa's right next door to India, and a lot of African dress, traditional African dress, very similar to Indian traditional dress with bangles and a lot of the robes and there's a lot of stuff, and they're both using a lot of color. And I'm just trying to make the point of unity, look, unification, cross-cultural stuff. Sai Baba, Hindu Vedic, supposed to be able to manifest precious jewels, although some say he's regurgitating them out his stomach, but who knows. But yeah, point here is afro, broad nose, Hindu Vedic. So it's not the first time we've seen this, and we're gonna go into explore that a little bit more after this this little radio clock break. So let's jump in. Let me pick some music. We'll go from this other pool of music things. Number 7, because it's lucky. Let's try that one. Don't know what's going to be on it, but it will do for a break. So yes, Liam Martin, Exiled Minds Podcast. We shall return after these short messages and look a bit more into the cross-cultural influences in just a minute.
Mike's pretty skeptical, but we both got weirded out by something that mentioned literally heartbeats happening. The Galactic Federation of Worlds, like 2 weeks before this. That's the remote viewing guys. I know I keep bringing them up, but they just keep weirding me the hell out.
The Exiled Minds Podcast. Famously, Martin. You have like several names that you're famous and the mighty. How can we beat that? The Exiled Minds Podcast. The Exiled Minds Podcast. Famously Martin the Mighty Rohan. The famous Exiled Minds Podcast. How can you beat that?
What's interesting about this is with all the turmoil going on in 2020 and with the Tom DeLonge thing, this narrative that's starting to develop, lots of propaganda, all the kind of pieces are starting to fall into place. There's lots of like what to believe, you don't know. Balthazar, there's all this stuff going on. It's like, what do you believe? What do you believe? Believe. If you look at our elites, they're acting freaking weird. They're definitely like meeting behind closed door, like they have their plans. Do the elites, have they gotten a list of demands from these beings? The Galactic Federation worlds, are we not? Is this real? If it is, like, are we trying to get into it? And maybe the elites are getting this laundry list of demands. Or you need to have more control, centralized government, you can't have guns. A lot of the elites' behavior right now is just almost like desperate.
You're tuned into Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where we contemplate the mysteries of the cosmos through the lens of philosophy, magic, and more.
For many centuries, witchcraft has been considered evil, associated with the devil and all things dark. Let's break these stereotypes with your host, Matt Sao, at the Temple of the Hour. Let's talk about magic of the old ways, explore the many roles of the witch, learn the tools of the craft, the history of the science behind this ancient earth-based religion on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
This is James Salcedo, host of Salcedo Paranormal, and you're listening to the Troubled Minds Radio Network on KUAP Digital Broadcasting.
Eastern music. I was looking. Welcome back to the show. With me, your host, Liam Martin, the Exiled Minds Podcast. Today, we're talking about Yasuke, the samurai, and his relationship with Nobunaga, who was very influential in Japanese history. So, yeah, we started off by discussing the division politics that we were getting at the minute and some silly stories that just don't pan out, where there's this stupid history being made kind of at the minute right now in sort of contemporary times. And like I don't know if I should mention it. Like, for example, if a newspaper, here's another thing you should know about these silly stories, and this is why I wanted to do a show about cultural integration and unification, which Nobunaga, Japanese feudal lord, was trying to unify Japan during the feudal period, and took on an African guy and became a samurai. And the foreigners just don't get it as the first one. So I wanted to talk about, look, aim high, stick together, but take care of each other. Unification's the way, you know? Divided we fall, as we keep saying. But anyway, yes, I wanted to look at that. I had there's some silly rhetoric going around at the minute. We looked at Obama's, he's been a consultant on a Netflix movie that's saying, basically, if it was a movie where, like, oh no, if the power goes out and you're struggling and things start to collapse. Be cautious of other people, and it says in that film, especially white people, which is bang out of order. And Obama's got himself some backlash on that. And then, or just to show them who's coming late, there was also other stupid little stories where we've got a children's book in Britain, and the BBC ran with this and did a series where they're claiming Stonehenge. It says Stonehenge was built by Black Britons. Children's history book claims, and the BBC went on to claim that Black people, Black power, and they built the roads and stuff. And we know the Romans built the roads. Come on, we know the Anglo-Saxon, Vikings, if anything, we've had influence by more than, and the whole of Europe was pagan. Do you know what I'm saying? The Caucasus Mountain. This is a history. We know history, and we looked at all these other silly little things where things living in the upside down, as Michael Strange, Troubled Minds Radio often says. Got another silly little story here. If this video stops loading up and lets me look at it, yeah. So we covered this. Look, finally a lesson in common sense, and this is coming from the Daily Mail, of all people. But yeah, finally a lesson in common sense. School tells parents we will not provide kitty litter trays for pupils who identify as cats, and warns this kind of behaviour is not acceptable. This is from West Monmouth School, Pontypool in Wales, who has alumni people such as Sir Anthony Hopkins. 1,000 pupils in this school. Nice grand little school. Looks like Professor X's house, to be honest, which is in Winchester, which I've been to. Actually, it's all fields around there, I thought. But anyway, yeah, so I was just looking at some of the silly rhetoric that we've been going on, some of the division politics, constant. You might have noticed it last few years, more and more of it, whilst we've also experienced unprecedented censorship. So I just wanted to highlight some of these things because I think they're trying to divide us. And so I thought then it'd be really cool to, look at a bit of actual history where there's two, where you won't think, Africans in Japan being summarized, you won't think that, and then we looked at, Nobunaga's influence and how he basically was trying to unify Japan. And I've got a massive script here. I didn't read any of it, but got sidetracked. But Nobunaga has his legacy. So let's have a look at the legacy. We looked at the legacy of Nobunaga. So let's see what the legacy says about Yasuke then. So his legacy is unique, and it's an intriguing one because especially considering the status of an African samurai in feudal Japan. Despite the relatively limited historic documentation about his life, Yasuke's story has resonated across centuries and continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. And some aspects of his legacy are cultural representation. Nobunaga was into taking in cultures and opening trade routes to the rest of the world, and to try and enhance Japan. And it worked because he got firearms from it. It really helped him a lot. And if it wasn't for the general that betrayed him that we talked about, then he probably would have been the person to unify Japan. But he laid down the groundwork, Nobunaga, and then the following warlords then kind of unified Japan after he'd laid the groundwork. So we looked at that legacy, and let's have a quick look at some of the things that we can say about Yasuke, the African samurai's legacy then. So like I say, it's an intriguing one, especially considering his status as an African samurai in feudal Japan, where foreign warriors just weren't really a thing. Even foreigners weren't really a thing until Nobunaga really started to try and push for that. So despite the relatively limited historical documentation, I've only got 3 years worth of mention of him. So a bit like Hendrix. Well, it is a reincarnation. But anyway. So yes, his life then. His story resonated across centuries, continues to capture the imagination of people around the world. Here's some important aspects of Yasuke's legacy. Cultural representation. Yasuke represents an early example of multiculturalism in Japan. His presence as a foreigner in a position of honor, serving as a samurai, challenges traditional perceptions of Japan as a largely nomogenous society. His story has been a source of interest for those exploring diversity in Japanese history. Inspiration for literature and media. As I've mentioned, Yasuke's life has inspired various adaptations in literature, manga, and film, imagining his adventures and his contributions to historical events. For example, the Netflix animated series Yasuke presents a fictionalized account of his life, including introducing him as a skilled warrior with a unique background. Symbols of uniqueness and diversity. Yasuke's story highlights the complexities of identity and belonging in a historical context. His position as a foreigner in a land deeply rooted with its own traditions and culture adds depth to discussion on diversity, inclusion, and acceptance, which is what we're getting at with this show. Acceptance, differences. You know, we can disagree on things and not still fall out. We don't have to do this identity politics. You know, we just don't. We're living proof of it. We're doing it now. We're doing it now. Join the conversation, all that stuff. And I'm going to start a Discord thing as well, so that people can jump in on that if you want. I could put the link in here, but if you're already using Discord, it's probably a bit easier. But anyway, yes. Historical curiosity, the enigmatic nature of Yasuke's life and his origins, and his role in Nobunaga's service, and the mysteries surrounding his later years continues to intrigue historians and enthusiasts, sparking ongoing research and interest in uncovering more about it. Like I said, there's just not much to work with. Yasuke's life is multifaceted, touching on themes of multiculturalism, representation, and the complexities of identity. And his story gains more attention and interest, especially with, pop culture, recently in Netflix series and the manga, all that stuff. And it contributes to a broader discussion on diversity and historical intersections from different cultures, which is where I want to come into the Bodhidharma. Although we did a show on the Bodhidharma before, Bodhidharma is another guy that appears to be an African guy. So I looked to see if there was the same sort of period. I don't think there were. But like I said, this is not the first time we've seen an African character heavily influence the East. So the period of Yasuke's presence in Japan is in the late 16th century. It coincides with earlier historic periods that include the Bodhidharma in China. While the Bodhidharma is believed to have lived during the 5th and 6th century, so it's way before, right, like 1,000 years before, we've already got this guy, the Bodhidharma, who apparently is depicted a lot as being Asian, Indian, in the paintings, but there's also stuff to suggest that he's actually an African guy again. So Bodhidharma, think about this. The story of the Bodhidharma is very a similar situation, except that in terms of influence, except the Bodhidharma, he didn't get brought over by Jesuits to China as, potentially a slave that had won his freedom. No. Bodhidharma walked from West Africa and found his way to China. Okay. Bodhidharma is believed to have lived in the 5th, 6th century and was a Buddhist monk. Traditionally created as a transmitter of Chan Buddhism or Zen Buddhism in Japan. So he brought Zen Buddhism to China. He basically brought Buddhism to China, which comes from Hinduism. And so his teachings and legendary journey to China from India are foundational in Zen Buddhist school. Yasuke's time in Japan occurred much later, during the 16th century, which is part of the Sengoku period, the Warring States period in Japan's history. This period was marked with intense military conflict and efforts to various feudal lords to unify Japan under their rule. So while the Bodhidharma's era in China is several centuries earlier than Yasuke's in Japan, their historical timelines, obviously, they're not going to overlap historically, but their influences is kind of overlaps. Their stories belong to a broader historical context that reflects the interactions, cultural exchanges, and significant developments within their respective regions during different periods of history. So there we go. So the Bodhidharma, he's supposed to have walked across India, which is a long walk, by the way, to get to China, and then he ended up at a temple known as in the Shaolin area. And this guy, I think, is from Africa. I think he walked from West Africa, Bodhidharma, to India. Okay, obviously they've got Africa's going to have its own sort of spirituality and, you know, religious stuff going on. Then he's discovered Hinduism, traveling through India, carried on his walk, found his way to China. And the Bodhidharma, say he ended up at a place called Shaolin. And he was the guy that decreed that it might be a good idea for the monasteries to learn martial arts. And so that's where you get Shaolin Kung Fu. Now, Shaolin Kung Fu came as a result of this African dude that some say maybe Indian, but I'm saying he's African, walked from West Africa, did a Forrest Gump, went from all the way across Africa, got his way over to India, learned a bit about Hinduism, ended up in China. And along the way, he studied how a snake fights, and he studied how a mantis fights. He studied how tigers fight and how monkeys fight. And he decided to mimic those animals and try to come up with a martial arts system that incorporated these animals. So the Bodhidharma, when he arrives at Shaolin, he teaches the monks his martial arts style, which then becomes Shaolin Kung Fu. So the Bodhidharma, again, another African. So you know, why Yasuke is not the first African to influence the Far East. Indeed, especially considering since there's numerous statues. For me, it's important because there's numerous statues in Southeast Asia that have the kinky hair. They say it's the pine cone, but you've seen them Buddha statues. They've got weird hair in little spirals, and they say it represents the pine cone. Yeah, but that's kinky hair. To me, it's kinky hair. And some of these Southeast Asian statues have these broad noses. So I hit the chat GPT with this one. And it's like, yeah, an intriguing aspect, historical connections and representations found in some regions of Southeast Asia, areas like Thailand, Cambodia, and other parts of Southeast Asia. There are statues of Buddhas with features that some interpret as having African characteristics, including broad or elongated noses. These depictions have led to discussion and theories suggesting the potential connection between early African populations and the ancient trade routes that extended across Asia, right? You know, silk trade routes. Some scholars have speculated about the potential cultural exchanges and interactions between African and Southeast Asia and that have influenced artistic representation. There's always a disclaimer. However, it's important to note that the interpretations of these statues can vary, and there isn't a definitive consensus on the origins of meanings behind these features. Historical connections and influences across regions are complex and not always fully understood due to the gaps in historical records and varying scholarly perspectives. Well, I tell you, it doesn't have gaps in the records historically. Everyone else other than Europe. Hate to point it out, but Japanese is a derivative of Chinese, the languages, right? And those symbols have remained the same for thousands of years. It's not like the English language. If enough people use a word incorrectly in English, then the dictionary gets redefined. Case in point, a lot of people have used the word literally to mean figuratively, to mean, you know, they don't mean actual reality. But that word literally has been used in the incorrect context so many times that the Oxford and Cambridge Dictionary have had to redefine the word to mean both figurative and literal at the same time. So when you say literally now, it can mean two opposite things. It can mean imagine, like in imagination, or in actual reality. So it's got two opposite meanings at the same time. So you need to understand that the English language does that, and it likes to stay fluent with whatever the local vernacular is, whatever the current vernacular is. Whereas Chinese and Japanese languages, those symbols have meant the same thing for thousands and thousands of years. So when it comes to historical records, they're way more reliable. And those symbols are packed. If a picture paints 1,000 words, a symbol paints 1,000 pictures. So their historical records are a bit better, I would say. And yeah, if you check some of them statues, man, if you look at Hinduism Sai Baba, like we mentioned, let's get this guy up again. Where's Mr. Baba? Yeah, let's get this image up. Is this Hindu Vedic? So this is Sri Satya Sai Baba, Hindu Vedic, blatant afro, broad nose. Right? His skin's not super dark, but that looks like an African guy to me. And let's get some of these African Buddhas up then. Let's go Google. Let's try see if Google can actually let me type for a change. African Buddha statues. Let's do it live, see what comes up. No, let's see. Let's go to the images. Boom, here's one. 44 African Buddha ideas. Yeah, look, check this one. If you can see it on the video, let's try and highlight it. This dude, this statue, this head has got, okay, so it's got the elongated lobe situation that you often get. This is from a central Vietnamese Buddha statue. Black history facts that someone's put on Pinterest or whatever. I don't really go on this, but here's a picture. Clearly a broad nose, and they've got that that hairstyle with there's lots of little balls or little twizzly bits. Okay, you get that a lot in Buddha statues, but that's just one. There's loads of these. If you look it up, there's loads of statues from Southeast Asia of Buddhas that totally look black, look like African people. You know what I'm saying? Here's some more for those on the video. Look, it's some images of ancient black Buddhas, and then some images of Dravidians, people of India. The Dravidians, I did a show on the Dravidians about gold mining, but cultural influence, looking kind of African, looking pretty damn African to me, and the statues are looking pretty damn African with the hair and the broad nose situation. Like I said, there's loads of these statues you can look up. So, that's just a couple of examples. And the hair thing, all these Buddha statues got these hairs. And also I happen to know from a guy called Dr. I don't know if he's a metaphysics doctor or what, but years ago, there was a guy I used to follow, Dr. Phil Valentine. And he was, I thought he was a Black Power guy at first, but he wasn't. He was teaching metaphysics of Africa. And he was heavily focused on it. And yeah, he pointed out that there's the Nagas in Buddha. I wonder if they're in here as well. The Nagas in Buddhism. Let's check this out. See if we can find them. It's probably just going to show the dragons, to be honest. But there's these 3 black Buddhas. Let's see. Oh, I should have thought to get this up in advance. Do a quick image search. Let's see if we can find them. No, they're not in there. But I'll tell you the story anyway. So just to sort of wrap this up. So yeah, there's these 3 black Buddhas. In Buddhism, there's these 3 wise kings. It sounds familiar. 3 wise kings. The festive season coming up. So you've got these 3 wise kings, and they're all black. All 3 of them are black. Right? The African Buddhas. So you can look that up. It's to do with metaphysics and whatnot, alchemy, which comes from Egypt, which is Africa, by the way. Alchemy, chemistry. It's just that, at some point, Arabs came into Egypt, and now it's mostly full of Arabs. But you got to remember, that's Africa. That's African people, So you have to wonder about that, don't you? And if people built the Egyptian pyramids, well, the Egyptians don't claim to have built them. So if they're built by people, they will probably build them by Africans because it's on African land. A bit like, British people built Britain. Same thing works both ways. So I'm saying if the pyramids are built by people, very advanced people, they would have been African. And if they were African or whoever built them, they knew about trigonometry before Pythagoras. And I can tell you that because the pyramids, the Great Pyramids of Giza, if you catch the light right at certain times of the year, you can see that those 4 faces on the surface of the pyramids, they're not 4 faces, they're 8 faces. They're slightly star-shaped because there's a perfect center line. They're slightly angled inwards. So if you get the sunlight on the right time, you can see it will shine on one of the faces, but one side will be in shadow while the other's not, because they're slightly inverted, slightly concave. Right. So you need trigonometry for that. So somebody knew that stuff a long time ago. Maybe it was and this gets into the Atlantis conversation. And Atlantis was, if that's a global civilization, we see this cross-cultural stuff going on. They were probably a mixture of races. Yeah, a bit like we've got global civilization today. It's a whole mixture of people. It's a whole mixture. Yeah, working together. So that's just a little side note there. But yeah, check it out. Check out some of these. Have a look up. See if you can find some Buddhist statues from Southeast Asia. Man, they're looking so kinky here. And it's okay to say kinky here because Dr. Asani Brogan, that's the term she uses, and she says it's fine. So I want to use it. Kinky hair. Always in spirals. Look, all these Buddha statues always got that same kind of hairstyle. So what's going on? Because I swear some of these are got to be African. And when I looked into, there's another one here. Let's get this one up. And some of the noses, I think I've found it on that last picture and on this one. The noses have been smashed off. So it gets you wondering about that, doesn't it? And remember, the Sphinx the face has been smashed up and recarved a bunch of times. So you've got to wonder, haven't you? But anyway, yeah. So let's get that picture of Sai Baba up again, just to drive the point home. Where's that? Where's Mr. Baba? There we go. What do you reckon? I mean, what do you reckon? Make your own mind up, I would say. Oh, Daryl's in the chat. Let's quickly check the chat before we go. Yes, Blade Runner, those who shine bright, yeah, tend to burn out faster, as they say. Yeah, I think that, yeah. Hi, Daryl. Rico said, yeah, let's get this. I'll put this up on the thing as soon as I can. I'll take the Troubled Minds caption thing off now. But yeah, Rico says, I think even the Bohemian Grove didn't know about the African samurai. Yeah, they probably, well, maybe, yeah. Yeah, I can't believe that didn't get banned, to be honest. I didn't name names, but, What else we got? Sixth Sentient. They literally changed the dictionary. Yeah, they do. They changed the dictionary. They do, literally. If enough people say the word wrong incorrectly, then it'll get changed. And that's why I said English is a magical language. But anyway, let's get this up. Well, they literally change it, yes. Mixed it up like a stew pot. Exactly. Now, isn't that what we're supposed to do in multiculturalism? Aren't we supposed to be unifying and blend together, world peace and all that? But no, they want us to go to war, don't they? And you'll notice NATO at the minute are expanding even further and trying to... That's getting sketchier. NATO's been expanding and getting closer and closer to Russia's borders for 30 damn years. And now they're trying to get us to go war with Russia because Ukraine have run out of money because they owe loads to the World Bank. And that's why they're trying to send you money. And it's, you know what I mean? You had the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. That all went away because we had a global medical emergency. Then as soon as that's gone, they're going, war with Russia, nuclear war with Russia. And then that's not really worked out. People aren't really going for it. So now, Palestine, Israel, Palestine. There's constant conflicts. It's not you and me causing it, is it? We don't want to fight. And what a waste of resources. So that's my view anyway. That's my opinion. I'm entitled to it. So we're gonna do about it. And plus I'm on Rumble, Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, who else? And yeah, YouTube. And so yeah, I'll go to other platforms if it causes any problems. But anyway, I've got to get going because the thing is running out and I'm just rambling on. So thanks everyone for tuning in. Rico, Sixth Sentient, James is out there, Daryl, I'll go in the background. Nice to see you, OG Skywatch. I can't believe how quickly these shows go by, but we're going to have to stick some more music on so I can play it out and not go over time. So thanks very much for tuning in. Exiled Minds Podcast. Look these things up. Links in the description. And like, share, and subscribe, please. And you can find the podcast on Spotify too. So if that's your thing, or the regular podcast platforms. That's it for me. Exiled Minds Podcast. And we'll back tomorrow. Not sure what show. Don't know. Maybe scalar physics, maybe something else, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks very much for tuning in, and I'll catch you all soon.